Hello, writers and readers. I'm freelance fiction editor Miranda Darrow, here with my weekly video about writing, editing, and the writing life. It's a new month, so we're ready to talk about a new genre or subgenre. This month, we're tackling a large genre, historical fiction. For a while, historical fiction was a bit of a niche, but readers have been waxing nostalgic, and it's been picking up in popularity. In 2024, for the first time in recent history, during a US presidential election year, historical fiction sold more books than political fiction. And as an American, not that interested in reading about political fiction, I can see why. In this week's video, I'll talk about the historical fiction genre, define some common eras for historical fiction, list some common themes and tropes, and give some writing tips. And we're off. Historical fiction invites readers to step into a world that once was, blending fact with imagination to bring history to life. As a genre, it's as much about human experience as it is about exploring the historical details. It explores universal emotions and struggles against backdrops of bygone eras. Whether you're delving into the elegance of a Regency period, the turmoil of World War II, or the mysteries of ancient civilization, historical fiction offers endless opportunities to weave compelling stories. What is historical fiction? At its core, historical fiction is a genre that sets fictional characters and events within a specific historical time and place. The setting isn't just a backdrop, it's a living, breathing element that shapes the plot, the conflicts, and the characters. Authors sometimes incorporate real historical figures and events, blending them seamlessly with their own characters and creations to craft narratives that feel authentic yet personal. Here's a breakdown of historical eras in fiction. This is not all of them, but these are some pretty common ones. Ancient civilizations. These are commonly set in ancient Egypt or Rome or Greece or Mesopotamia, but I'd love to see some other areas. Themes for this are power struggles, myth and faith, cultural innovation, and survival. An example of this is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, and it's about the Greek legend Achilles. The next historical era is the Middle Ages. Common settings include castles, monasteries, battlefields, and kingdoms of Europe or the Islamic Golden Age. Themes can include chivalry, religious conflict, feudal life, and forbidden love. An example of this is The Last Kingdom by Bernard Cornwell, which is now a Netflix series about the birth of the British Empire. The next era is the Renaissance and Enlightenment. Common settings include Italy's art-filled streets, the royal courts of France and England. Themes include artistic innovation, scientific discovery, and political intrigue. Examples include The Birth of Venus by Sarah Dunant, written as a fake memoir of a woman who longed to be an artist. And the next era is Regency and Victorian eras. Common settings include genteel English estates and bustling industrial cities. Themes are often social stratification, romance, and the tension between tradition and progress. I would love to see some non-Western examples in the same time frame. An example of a Western one is Longbourn by Joe Baker. It's set in the Bennett family household from Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, but is told from the perspective of a housemaid. Our next era, World War I and World War II. These are very common. The setting is usually European cities under siege, perhaps the Western Front for World War II with battle in the Pacific, resistance movements. Themes can include sacrifice, resilience, love in the face of war. Examples include The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna about the bravery of two sisters in Nazi-occupied France. The next historical era I'm going to cover is early 20th century. Some of this is also World War II, but these are ones that are not set in World War II. Prohibition era America and the Jazz Age. Themes include social change, individual rebellion, and navigating modernity. Examples include Wild Women in the Blues by Denny S. Bryce, set in jazz-era Chicago. And the final era I'm going to mention, but not talk a ton about, is recent historical fiction. These are recent works set from the 1950s to 1999. There's been some dispute among genre snobs about whether anything post-World War II can be considered historical. But as a person who grew up in the 1970s and the 80s, watching historical movies and shows about World War II and the Korean War, I don't think we can keep calling events from 75 years ago as contemporary when ones less than 20 years ago were historical when I was a child. I won't talk a whole lot about recent historical now, as I am featuring recent historical for my list of book recommendations in next week's video. So we'll talk a lot more about it then. All right, we've covered the eras. Let's talk about some common themes in historical fiction. First is resilience in adversity. Characters often face societal constraints, war, or personal loss, revealing their strength and ingenuity. Another theme, love across boundaries. Forbidden romance across class, culture, political divides provide rich emotional stakes. The weight of legacy. Protagonists grapple with family, cultural, or historical legacies that define their choices. The quest for freedom. Stories of rebellion against oppressive systems, from slavery to totalitarian regimes. Transformation and progress is another theme, the clash between old traditions and new ideas that forms the heart of many plots. And so we've covered some themes. Let's talk about some common tropes in historical fiction. One of them is an outsider's perspective, the protagonist who doesn't fit in societal norms, offering a fresh view of the era. Another is sweeping family sagas, generational tales highlighting the impact of history on family dynamics over multiple generations. There's also a genre that's called family saga, that many of them are historical, just based on the setting and the time frame. The accidental hero is another trope. Ordinary individuals thrust into extraordinary historical events. That's pretty much the whole plot of Forrest Gump. Then we have the hidden diary or secret letter as a trope. A modern character uncovers a historical narrative through artifacts. And romance in dangerous times as a trope. Love stories set against the backdrop of war or revolution. And finally, here are some tips for writing historical fiction. First, research, and then research some more. Accuracy is the foundation of compelling historical fiction. Dive into primary sources, biographies, and documentaries to understand your chosen era. Balance fact and fiction. While history provides the scaffolding, don't be afraid to imagine the details. The best historical fiction feels alive because it marries truth with creativity. This is fiction. You do not need to make it a documentary. 3, make the era tangible. Use sensory details to bring the past to life. What did the streets smell like? What did people wear? How did they speak? 4, focus on universal emotions. While your setting is historical, your characters' emotions, love, fear, ambition are timeless. Highlighting these shared human experiences will resonate with modern readers. 5, choose a unique perspective. Tell the story of a maid, a soldier, or a merchant instead of just the king and queen or the princess. Often the untold stories of history are the most fascinating. 6, do not overwhelm the readers with your research. While authenticity matters, avoid info-dumping historical facts. Weave your research subtly into the narrative to maintain pacing and engagement. Only include the details that are important to the plot and the characters. Don't prove that you've done all this research by dumping a whole bunch of it. Number 7, use language thoughtfully. Dialogue should feel authentic but not alienating. Avoid overloading your prose with archaic phrases, but include touches that root in the time. A note on this, if you're using words that are slurs for people, reconsider. Find a different way to show that the people in that group are being oppressed and treated unfairly without flinging about slurs, even if it is authentic to the time, because readers can still be damaged by the use of such language. So think about that twice before you do that in the name of historical accuracy. Number 8, embrace small details. A single vivid description of a lace glove or a gaslight flicker or a steaming pie cooling on a windowsill can invoke an entire era. Number 9, address modern sensibilities with care. Historical fiction often reflects past inequities. Address these topics honestly, but with sensitivity to ensure that you are not alienating modern readers. And 10, create compelling conflict. Historical fiction thrives on the tension between individual desires and the constraints of the era. Explore the friction between personal ambition and societal expectation. All right, those are my tips. So why historical fiction matters? We'll just end with that. Historical fiction serves as a bridge to the past, connecting readers to worlds they've never known. It offers a lens through which we can reflect on contemporary issues, exploring the cycles of history, the resilience of humanity, and the enduring power of storytelling. Whether you're crafting a sweeping saga or an intimate character study, your historical fiction has the potential to transport, educate, and inspire. That's one of the reasons I love reading historical fiction, is I usually learn quite a bit. So take your readers on a journey. Let them fall in love, wage wars, and dream alongside your characters. In your hands, history isn't just a record, it's a story waiting to be told. If you like this video, tune into this channel next week when I'll give a list of book recommendations featuring recent historical titles. It's a fun list, and if you happen to be writing historical fiction, this is a great resource for comp titles. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. I post new content every week. This is Miranda Darrow, wishing you happy writing!